ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Hauntoverse Update. We have some breaking news tonight out of Orlando, Florida, where we've just learned that Halloween Horror Nights number 27 will most likely feature a haunt that's been asked for years. The rumor is that The Shining will be coming to HHN27. Now, the reason why this is broken so early is the way the timeline goes is that Universal sent out notices to a number of different travel agents, allegedly, that had The Shining listed as one of the haunts being featured for this year's Halloween Horror Nights. Since that has happened, they have pulled down all information about that, about The Shining, and have hidden it back into the catacombs, if you will. But a lot of people saw it, and a lot of people are now assuming that The Shining will be coming to HHN27. Now, Brian, you know there's a lot of controversy surrounding The Shining and why it hasn't been at HHN in the past. Can you maybe enlighten us a little bit about the history here?
Red rum. Yeah. So, Shining reference there for those of you maybe not so informed. Yeah, I mean, so much to unpack here. We're going to try, Andy. First off, just like top tier, real quick, the day and age that we live in, making it so hard for these companies to keep this stuff secret, you know, and I often wonder, I go back to how I miss the games and the website reveals, and we see different people breaking into coding and figuring out clues. Is it just too hard to do that they don't keep it up? Because now I remember Lady Luck was leaked because a Burger King cup was given out. Someone snapped a photo, you know, wildfires. It's so hard to keep. And I saw things today. I was kind of focused with different things, and I saw Shining revealed, and I was like, no, is that real? And then it was leaked, and then it was gone, and now I can only find a few traces. So thank you for that input on it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up because, and I'm 50-50 on this one. I would love to see this masterpiece brought to a Halloween Horror Nights house, and I think as we were discussing it, it kind of falls into the wonder of Exorcist that we had last year, which is, well, it's an amazing house. It's an amazing content. The story is legendary. The films are legendary. Does it work as a haunted house? You know, because it's so much more atmospheric and story-driven and character psychological and subtlety. And will it offend the content by bringing it to the flashy jump scareness of a haunted house? And as we saw with Exorcist, it did pretty good. It did. People loved the atmosphere of it. There were some things that, you know, we were hoping maybe they would have executed a little better, but So we'll see. Here's my problem. Here's the conflict. As many of you may know or may not know, Stephen King is very, very protective of his work, which is fair, right, as an artist should be, and you don't want to see it mistreated or misused. And we go back to the 1980, maybe, Stanley Kubrick Shining movie, the one that most people know. If you've seen Shining, you've probably seen this one. There was another one released much later, I think 97, where Stephen King released it as a miniseries, just like he did with the story It, which was also based on his novel. The Stephen King one did okay, but everyone loved the original, except for Stephen King. He felt that it was not executed properly and wanted to completely try again and do it how it should be. And it was okay. Honestly, I like the original. I think when you have a new mind come in that knows the media and the medium of film to take over, well, that's where the bus stops. He never wanted it to go even past the film industry. And even then, when he released the rights to that 1981, he wasn't as known as he was. He didn't have the same pull or leeway, so he had to give up some of the rights. Flash forward 2017, now we have a Shining house at Halloween Horror Nights, and that could be because of his looseness with that contract work way back when, because what we will see here, most likely, if anybody knows Stephen King, Halloween Horror Nights has been trying to get him, I think, since the event started back in the 90s. I mean, what a huge name. He has some of the most eclectic collection of horror. You could have a Stephen King house. I didn't want a Shining house. I wanted a Stephen King house, and he's never been interested in that. They've thrown money and money and money at this guy, and he has said no. He stayed true to himself and to his art. bring on the movie rights. And you've seen this in other worlds like Sony, where they have Spider-Man, but they can't get him in the comic world. That, you get these weird loopholes and weird terms, and that might have led to why we might see The Shining House, where they can base it on the film, because I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty confident that the movie release was from the same company who might be Warner Brothers. Again, I could be completely wrong, with Exorcist, where they've already established that relationship, and they've worked out a similar deal where they have the movie rights, which are different than the original content and book rights. And again, this is all mainly speculation and just kind of people filling in the lines and the blanks from the last 20 years to 30 years of business with this guy, and how all of a sudden we do have this movie and book. Turns out Stephen King comes out and says, I'm behind it. I would be ecstatic. I'd throw my hands up. I'd buy my ticket tomorrow. But I just don't think that's the case. I think Universal is pulling some tomfoolery here to get another big house name that, while I feel excited and incredibly pumped for, I'll feel a little bad for the guy. And even then, how do you feel about this? You have the argument of, you bring the medium to a new world. There's someone who's going to walk through that maze and be like, I don't know what this was about. That was terrifying. Give me the book. They're going to re-experience it. Or do you protect the artist and the wishes? And no, I didn't tell it to be told in a 5-minute haunted house. I told it in this long-form novel or this mini-series over the course of a few days, or an extended movie.
I think the issue becomes with The Exorcist last year. A lot of people liked it. I think they did a great job with the house itself, but the connection to the movie, whereas, if you haven't seen the movie, you might not understand what's going on in that house, because like you said, they're trying to tell a story within 5 minutes. And a lot of times you can't tell a story like that in 5 minutes. It's very difficult to do. It's impossible to do. And The Exorcist had a lot of cheesiness in it too. I thought there were parts that could have been executed better. There were parts that were repetitive. That the main thing in The Exorcist is the girl on the bed, and we saw 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 different scenes with that general concept going on. Becomes repetitive. I worry that by taking these classic films, yes, it gives you name value. Yes, it gives you something that the fans can connect to immediately. But are you giving us the best house with it too? Or like you said, are you really damaging the source material with this and doing it a disservice?
That's a great point.
By trying to do it within 5 minutes. And I just don't know. And the other thing I worry about with this is, in the past, we've seen issues with houses, come down to, the midnight hour, and things go south on them. So did they not?
That's true.
Did they not want
another
The
great
Shining
point.
released early because of issues that they suspect that they might have?
With the rights.
One Stephen King that we saw just a few years ago. No one will acknowledge it still. But we saw a few years ago, the Scream House was basically had to repurposed into a purge house because the people would not sign off on it. They wanted to be like the MTV, TV show, and the people of Halloween Horror Nights built it too much like the traditional movies, and they wouldn't sign off on it. And here we have, the purge house all of a sudden. So the question becomes, are we going to see this again? Are we going to see another purge house, come in HHN27? I don't know.
And if I may on that point, because that is an excellent point, and I love you bringing up the fact that you do get fans to relate to it immediately, but where does it go after that? But doesn't matter, because they have, I hate to say this, they have your money already.
Yeah.
It's like these sequels and movies we see. People are going to go see whether it sucks or not, and they have that money. When they find out it sucks, okay, but the immediate fan base is going to go, and I'm going to buy a Shining shirt. If there's Shining Halloween Horror Nights material, I'm gonna buy it, and that's a great point that you already got them, and then you heard it even more, and going back to the purge thing now, and that's where I have skepticism in the fact that they're doing this in a not a bad business, but in a kind of manipulative business type of way, because would they risk that happening again? I would have to imagine they'd have to have this 120% before they pull that trigger. But I I'm not sure, because this event for the last 15 years that I've been following has had last-minute changes like that. It might just be something they're used to dealing with. So if I get to walk through that hotel, but even I don't get me wrong, I love the hotel, I love the hedge maze. If we get in that hedge maze, I'm sold. That is a prime opportunity. I mean, I go back to the Walking Dead bush scare a few years ago, one of the best scares I've seen, and it was so clever and simple. I don't know if I can do a whole section of that, but with Jack coming at me, or Johnny. I don't know why I said Jack, but that's Jack Nicholson. He's the actor. It's the raw. Either way, I hope they base it off of Jack. Yeah, so I don't know.
Well,
I'll need to rewatch the. Yeah.
That brings up a completely different issue that I never thought about before. Jack Nicholson is even more protective of his image.
He is.
I can't tell you how many years it's been that a lot of people were waiting for Batman 1989 merchandise, but Jack Nicholson would not sign off on merchandise.
That's right.
For the
That's
Joker.
Right.
And just recently, though, he has. So maybe this has been a confluence of events, that he signed off. And he's like, I'm towards the end of my career. I need a few dollars. And I'm going to cash in a little bit. So, but that's another issue here. Not only Stephen King, that you might have a workaround to, but how do you have a workaround to Jack Nicholson? Are you going to make it so generic and pretend like that's not him when we all know it is? I don't know.
Which is hard to do. You can do that with other serial killers, but Jack Nicholson is John. I mean, he is that character. He made that role what it is. So that's a very great point that I totally forgot about that whole fiasco. And he's always been that way. Yeah. And again, to respect, no one wants to cheapen their role. Merchandising somewhat cheapens it sometimes. Yeah. I get that. I was just reading even Robin Williams back when he signed on. I think it was Aladdin 1. His deal, he took a multi-million-dollar pay cut, but his only stipulation was, don't make more money off of this. I don't want my voice in toys. I don't want my voice in ads. Unfortunately, Disney was like, well, we're going to do that anyway because we're Disney. And I'm sure he was disappointed to see it. And so there's a stigma with the whole merchandising aspect, and I get haunted houses seen as a money grab, as we've got the name. And I just wish he would understand the power, because as a master of horror and wanting to sink into the mind, I'll argue that haunted houses, while cheap and flashy and fun, are some of the best ways to do that. Yeah. And there's been content over the last 10 years. If I've seen it in a haunted house and I did not know what the movie was or the reference was, and it had an effect on me, I went and checked it out immediately. Mm-hmm. So this will be interesting, Andy. This is going to be a weird ride over the next few months. Also, to go back to our last video, it's May. It's barely May. It's crazy how early all of this is coming out. So I'm enjoying it because we're about to get to summer where things get interesting. So
we're going to start
the fact that we're already,
We're going to start getting a lot more stuff going on here, and it's going to start flowing pretty quickly. And I think the other interesting part is what is happening in Orlando may or may not be happening in Hollywood too. There's always a little difference there.
Great point.
And it'll be interesting to see where these two parks diverge here. And
I was about to say, not to get too much off topic and into a real show here, but I don't know what's going to come. American Horror Story was the only thing I was sold on. Walking Dead, I just absolutely don't see them with them opening a full-time attraction in Hollywood. I think that was the nail in the coffin for the Halloween Horror Nights experience. I don't remember who I saw it. I apologize for reference. I read possible Evil Dead because the show is doing so well. The show is fantastic. But again, everything's just murmurs right now. No one knows. I know there's a bunch of sites doing great jobs trying to dig into everything, and I'm right there with them nobody knows, and that's the crazy part. That's why everyone's throwing names out there, because we have 2 houses confirmed out of now, I guess they're doing 9 every year, because that was 2 years in a row, right? So, well, technically, I guess we didn't count.
Plus we're hearing that another icon's coming back too, maybe a brand new icon finally. So there's a lot swirling right now.
There is, and that would be, I'd be all for it. I think I'm trying not to get my hopes up so hard. I'm leaving the Shining thing. I know we have one of our buddies, Devin Olson at Devin Olson Media. His dream for Halloween Horror Nights has been for the Shining to be a house. So we might catch Devin back down there, and if they could find a way to work in clowns, game over. That's my trip is booked. So,
that is going to be one that I'm going to need to maybe hop on to there because to see both you and Devin falling down in haunted houses will make my life. It
what
really
more
will.
do you need? What more do you need?
Well, as always, thank you, Scare Warriors, for joining us here on Hauntoverse Update. And as always, scare on.